Hey guys, to help run the forums, host the website, and travel, we've introduced a universal service fee for in-depth coverage, including this video. My goal is to be unbiased and transparent. It's a privilege to serve you. This is not an endorsement. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome to Long Beach, California. We're checking out one of my favorite long-tail cargo bikes. This is the Xtracycle Edgerunner Swoop, and that's because it's the step-through version of the bike, but they do have a high step as well. It's called the Classic. Might be a little bit stiffer than this one, but this is just so approachable. And if you've got that rear cargo rack, or maybe even the front loaded up with a bunch of gear, that it's nice to have a bike that you could just jump forward on. You're not gonna have to worry too much. They've even got bottle cage bosses here, but they've mounted them pretty far forward so that you're not gonna like bump yourself if they were a little bit further down. So I like this bike. It comes in black or this nice like ocean blue gloss color with a little bit of white accents and some nice fun red accents around the bike too. This bike, you know, the way we've got it set up right now, it's like fully accessorized, so it's a little bit more expensive. The default price is $46.97, and then it jumps up. In this case, this is like $6,922 because we've got two battery packs here, two power pack 500s. You're gonna get excellent range, and you know, if you're hauling a bunch of gear, climbing a bunch of hills, that motor's gonna be working hard and burning through the batteries a little bit faster. So it's a good idea to, I don't know, maybe it's a good idea. It's just nice to have the option of two batteries, and I love where they're mounted. It's not taking up any of your cargo capacity in the rear. It's just gonna keep that weight low and centered. This bike, depending on how it's set up, it is gonna, you know, the weight's also gonna vary. So apparently without any accessories, it's about 62 pounds. We weighed the one you're looking at right here, and it's about 87 pounds. So, you know, the weight really can jump up. The battery pack on its own is 5.7 pounds. So that's 5.7 pounds right there. The Bosch CX motor, it's the highest power, but also heaviest motor in the lineup. 8.8 pounds. They also now offer the Bosch Performance Line Speed motor. So if you want to go above 20 miles per hour, you can, and that's kind of cool, especially if you're a commuter. I love that the bike comes with these Herman's integrated lights. It's got these side windows on the front, so you're gonna get some side visibility, as well as a reflective sidewalls on both of the tires and puncture protection. The interesting thing about the rear wheel is that it's also reflective, but they've got this bag, so it kind of blocks the reflectiveness depending on, you know, the scenario. These bags cost extra, the running boards, the hoopty handlebar, all that's extra. We're gonna talk about that a little bit later. But I'm just thinking, like, initially, just kind of stock what this bike would be like. It only comes with one battery stock, the Power Pack 500, 36 volt, 13.4 amp hours on that. I've covered it in a lot of the other reviews I've done. I've also covered the display, but I'm gonna touch on those lightly here. But I think the real takeaway is just how versatile this bike is, and all of the attention to detail they put into it. I love that it's got a 15mm through axle up front. It just makes it a little bit stiffer and stronger, and that's gonna support these slightly wider rims that give you a little bit more option in terms of what tires you're running. These are the Schwalbe Balloon Big Bends. They're higher volume, so it's 26 inch by 2.15. Okay, so it's fairly wide. It's got puncture protection, and that width's gonna give you some stability. Being a little bit smaller, this is not 28 or 27.5, it's 26. So the spokes are a little bit shorter, and they tend to be stronger, and it lowers the center of gravity on the bike a little bit. Okay, that's the front wheel. The rear wheel is 20 by 2.15, okay, and that allows you to have a lower deck, so it's easier to load, maybe put your feet down if you're riding on the rear end of this bike. It's kind of neat. It's very thoughtful, but I like that these running boards are actually fairly high, right? They're almost like in line with the rear axle. I've seen other cargo bikes where they're fairly low and they can bump into curbs and stuff, so I feel like they did a good job. And these are optional. It wouldn't come with those straight out of the bag, I guess. And gosh, so many mounting points and stuff all over there. Lots and lots of options. Here's the rear light, another Herman's light integrated, so both of them run off the battery pack or packs, which is very nice. The drivetrain is pretty good. We got Shimano Dior 10 speed, and the sprockets back here go from 11 to 42 teeth, so it's fairly wide, and the 42 tooth is going to make it easy to start climbing. 19 teeth on that front chainring. Might be slightly different on the Speed motor, and I believe that if you get the Speed bike, it might be a couple $100 more expensive. You know, in my experience, like hauling cargo and climbing and stuff, it's nice to have the extra power, up to 75 Newton meters of torque that the CX offers. But then again, 63 Newton meters of torque, that's the peak on the Speed motor. That's still not too bad. And with a good like gearing range that we have here, it's definitely doable. It'd be nice to have the two bikes side by side and be able to climb and really experiment, but I have ridden both on many, many other bikes. They're both very effective. They're very efficient too, because as you change gears back here, you're gonna empower that mid-drive. It's not like a hub motor. You know, sometimes you see other cargo bikes with a hub motor and it really doesn't have any extra mechanical advantage as you shift gears. It's just one ratio, and that's depending on the wheel size. So this is a very efficient, really well made, I would say very reliable electric cargo bike. The frame is all steel, chromoly steel. And the fork is as well. So that provides some vibration dampening, a lot of strength. I love the way that the optional front rack is mounted as well. It's mounted to the frame itself. So when you steer, you're not gonna dump the load, and it's also not gonna start to, you know, create some momentum as you're steering and dump itself. Those are things I think about when I'm looking at like a real cargo bike, one that can actually carry the extra load and help you. You definitely wanna have good brakes when you're carrying up to 400 pounds, and these are the Shimano Dior 2-finger brake levers, something that you'd see on like electric mountain bikes, right? Where you really need to be able to stop quickly and you want to have that like high precision. 180 millimeter rotors, front and rear, dual piston, quick release on the front, and again, 15 millimeter through axle, very nice. On the rear, I believe it's 135 millimeter hub spacing with a standard 9 millimeter axle with quick release as well. So there it is, quick release, easy to service on the go. Maybe make some adjustments. And then there's a speed sensor. You can sort of see it hanging out right there. That's going to measure rear wheel speed. And then the motor, it's going to measure your pedal cadence and your pedal torque. It's going to combines all those signals 1,000 times per second. So it's a very responsive motor. I think you'll see that later when I put the camera on the bike and go for a little bit of a ride here. But you can see how well they've reinforced the frame with like the double tubing here with these little cross members, and then we've got some extra frame supports going on back here. It's really well done, and you need that, otherwise the frame's going to start to flex and then your cargo's going to feel tippy. And you know, cargo bikes are a tricky deal because the more reinforcement you get, the heavier they get, right? And then the more power you need and the more power they use. So I feel like this one is probably one of the stronger, like more durable cargo bikes that I've seen. I think they've been doing it the longest. They were one of the pioneers in this space. So I really want to give them credit for that. But then coming back to the actual ride feel, we've got these nice, they're kind of plastic. I believe these are VP, a little bit wider, a little bit larger than a lot of other stock pedals, a little bit more premium on those. 170 millimeter FSA cranks, 31.6 millimeter seat post, and depending on what size you get in this bike, this might be longer or shorter. Okay, so I believe it's like 350 or 450, and then the stem, this one's 90, but it could be a little bit shorter, 60, 90, 120. So that's all that really changes. That was a surprise to me. So on the website, it says they have 3 sizes, but the frame doesn't actually change. It's just the seat post length and the stem length. And those are things that you could replace yourself very easily aftermarket. So imagine if the handlebars were set forward a little bit more with that 120 millimeter stem, or brought back a little bit. These are already swept back bars, aluminum alloy. We've got nice Ergon GP1 locking ergonomic grips. We got trigger shifters. We got forward and backward on the high gear, and then multi-shift on the low gear with a little window. The headlight points where you steer, but this is one area where you want to be careful, because if you had a bag like this and it was really loaded up, you could be blocking that headlight. So that's something to keep in mind. On the other hand, if you look at how low this basket is because of that 26-inch wheel, they're really doing a good job. And a lot of other cargo bikes, I see they actually mount the headlight below the rack, or maybe on the fork, right? And then it's easier to get blocked that way too. So for me, having a light way up high, having those side windows to keep you visible, that's the key priority. And then look at these spacers. It's like 3 30 millimeter spacers, 5 millimeter, and then 20 millimeter right there. So it raises it really high up. FSA, it's like a external cups. I don't think it's sealed. It's straight on that headset right there, versus like a tapered mountain biking setup or something like this. So just a little bit different, and that comes back to the steel frame and stuff. And I think they're using like the standard gauge all the way down. It's not like really being hydroformed, it's just being bent. What would you think, Chris? Is this hydroformed at all? Do they even do that with steel?
Not so much. Yeah, this is just kind of mostly standard tubing, but I'm sure they got actually some custom tubes specifically for them.
See different diameters,
common, yeah.
right, with like the cross members and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I'm noticing that not all the wires are internally routed either, and that may be like a feature when you think about Ross and how they started this company with like that accessory that bolts onto a bike to make it a cargo bike.
Right.
I feel like they wanted to make it really serviceable. This is very like classic.
We really appreciate that on the service side for sure, and actually customers can appreciate that on their pocketbook if it, you know, if it ends up needing certain replacement of cables or wires or whatever, to have those things accessible. It's actually a really good thing.
And for those of you who don't recognize, this is Chris. He's my friend. He owns a bike shop called Propel here in Long Beach. So this is one of the bikes he carries, and I kind of hit him up whenever I see a neat bike and want to do a fun review with this beautiful backdrop. So thank you for that insight. What else do you have to add about this bike? And you've heard me talk about the drive system, the drivetrain, things like this deflopulator spring right here. So see how it like keeps the handlebars pointed straight, and that might be useful if you're loading the bike and you don't want it to turn. Really nice kickstand. You know, what else comes to mind here in terms of cargo bikes?
The way I look at it is that this is a very mature bike. I mean, it's been developed quite a bit over the years, and the deal is that all their accessories over the years, like even some of the things you had mentioned, it's very well thought out. They went through many iterations. At this point, it's very developed. You know, you'll see a lot of different long tail cargo bikes out there, but really in many ways this is the grandmaster of of cargo bikes. And I, you know, I always look at Ross as kind of like a mad scientist working on these things, and they're always putting out some pretty exciting things.
I want to pay my respects as well, because I feel like they do one thing and they do it really well.
Absolutely. So the updates from the previous version, really it's becoming more of a modular system in a lot of ways, right? So you have two different motor options. You can do the CX or the Speed. You can get a single battery or a double battery.
Love that.
And then you have all the different cargo accessories that you can kind of set it up however you need. If you want to put two child seats in the back, or you want to run the pads, you can run multiple pads if you want, run a pad and a child seat. It's very flexible, and all the accessories that are made for it, as I said, they're really very developed at this point. And from our experience, you know, it's these little details that you don't always notice. Somebody's like, oh, okay, that one has pads and it works, you know. But some of those little things like the safety stuff or the kickstand, over the years, have they continued to develop it more and more. Certainly this setup in the front with the rack, the frame mounted rack with the bag. This is great, you guys. I mean, there's lots of space. It's water resistant. I got my gear and the charger in there right now. I focus a lot on like the e-bike components sometimes, and in this case I'm really trying to, you know, recognize what's happening here with the frame. We talked about the external wires, but they've got some really nice little mounting brackets and stuff. They do stay out of the way. They keep it low. They've got that sticker there so that if you're kicking the frame, it's not going to mar the frame too much. I think it's a refined system is how I'd put it. And then with the CX motor here, you know, being able to leverage that center drive and extend your range with these two batteries. And the way that Bosch works is when you plug into this one space, see how that one says no plug? I think it's because they want you to only plug in on this other side here. There it is. And this is the one port that you charge on, and it actually fills both batteries evenly. And then when you're riding the bike, it drains both evenly too. So it's not like one is getting cycled all the time and the other one's just sitting there. So, you know, they are a little bit tucked in here. Chris, do you know which one is the stock one? Like by default, is it the bottom or the top? I'm pretty sure that the top is the standard default one, and then this is kind of the add-on. And technically, it is possible to do it after the fact, but generally our recommendation is to do it at the same time.
So at this point, I should probably jump into the display, but I'm just trying to think. I really want to do this bike justice. I mean, it's got like fender mounts up here. See these extra bosses? So you could put a fender or maybe a different kind of front rack. I feel like this plastic top piece is going to act as a rear fender by default. 31.6 millimeters on the seat post, so if you wanted to do a suspension seat post, but keep that in mind because see how close the hoopty is here, this rear bar stuff. If you're going up and down, you don't want to collide. So let's pretend that the batteries are completely charged up, you're ready to go for a ride. This bike comes with the Bosch, what is this, the Purion? Gosh, I'm getting kind of mixed up because now they have like the Intuvia, the Nion, and the Kiox. This one is my least favorite, and it's because it doesn't have quite as many cool buttons and it doesn't have a charging port that's active. So it's got a little software update, micro USB thing on the side there, but unfortunately you can't charge off of that, which is such a bummer because we potentially got 2 batteries back here. So maybe someday Xtracycle will offer the Kiox as a nice update. We were talking about the modularity of the system. By default, this stays out of the way. It leaves plenty of room for that headlight, and it keeps a nice clean cockpit for maybe like a cup holder or something. It's going to give you your speed in miles per hour right now. Level of assist right now, it's just in off. So if we press plus or minus, we go up to Eco, Tour, EMTB. The software on this one hasn't been updated. It says Sport right now, and Turbo. I do most of my ride tests in Turbo, and that's actually what I prefer with a bike that's a little bit heavier like this, because it gets me going and it feels like I can keep up a little bit better. And then battery capacity. So right now we got 2 out of 5 dots. So each dot is like 20% increment. And that's kind of it, plus and minus, right? Like more or less assist. They do have a walk mode button down here. So as long as you're not in off, if you press walk mode and then hold the plus button, you know, the bike will start to pedal itself. And that's a great feature to have. Like if you do get a flat tire, or maybe you're so loaded up and you're just in a space where you don't feel comfortable riding, you could rely on walk mode a little bit. And then there are some secret menus in here. So if you hold the plus button, get a little headlight icon, and that's where this light starts to activate and works pretty well. Again, it points where you're steering, and it's got this like cutoff, so it's not going to shine up into people's eyes. You can kind of keep it down at the road. And that nice big rear light, I love how it's positioned far back, and it's not going to like get kicked if you do have kids on there or get blocked by additional bags and stuff. It's well done. And then if we hold the minus key, it cycles through some of these other menus. So trip distance, total distance, range. And range is cool, it's dynamic. So depending on the level of assist that you're in, we're in Turbo, it says 9 miles. If we take it all the way down to Eco, now it's 30-mile range. Very cool. And then I think if we hold minus and tap power, that cycles from miles per hour to kilometers per hour. So that's a good overview. I do have like display specific guides back in the forums to help you guys out, but it's a quick overview. Maybe we should just hop on these things and take a little ride, Chris.
Do it.
Let's do it. Okay guys, Chris has the Xtracycle Edgerunner, and I was asking him to do a U-turn because I was curious about the turning radius, and I guess this is one of the places that he takes customers for rides. We got the Long Beach Aquarium over there, Lighthouse, Queen Mary. It's just beautiful, and it is a bit of a hill. We've been going up and down, so go ahead, Chris. Look at that, no problem. Got 2 bike lanes width. And then it seems like those running boards are actually pretty high considering it has a 20-inch rear wheel. They haven't been scraping on curbs or anything like that. This is a beautiful route.
Yeah, it's really nice. I mean, this is where the LA River kind of dumps out into the Pacific here.
Huh.
And you have the LA and Long Beach port here, the Queen Mary over there, and it's really nice.
Beautiful. Okay guys, I'm gonna turn the bike around again and just do some ride shots. Oh, that deflopulator spring up there, if you just get that 90 degrees, it's pretty good. You might go a little bit off the sidewalk like we did, but not bad. This is definitely longer than a normal bike. I think it's like 83.5 inches, whereas traditional bikes tend to be about 72. I'm gonna go ahead and pedal along in the highest level of assist, Turbo, and just show you around while we're riding. Super responsive, nice upright body position here, pretty comfortable. And I'm not feeling a lot of knee strain. I'm not having to work real hard because it does have the CX motor here, up to 75 Newton meters of torque. The Speed motor, you know, you're still getting 63, that's not bad, and in my experience, it's still very capable. Yeah, you know, I think that the CX is probably a great option though in this case, given that you could be hauling a bunch of extra weight. There's a little bit of no hands. You know, it's a little bit floaty since it's longer, but all in all, it's feeling pretty good. Loving the higher volume tires, 26 by 2.15. Just a little bit smoother if you have to go off a curb. And then, you know, this is a standard size curb over here. I was getting close earlier trying to see if that running board gets a little bit close, but it's actually, you know, it's not sticking out quite as much as I thought it might. And going off curbs and stuff, it's not banging around. I'm not clipping it, maybe because it's kind of got those angles at the front and the rear. All in all, you know, it's the kind of bike that you notice that it's a little bit heavier and a little bit longer, but it's not that difficult to maneuver compared to some of the other bikes we've been riding around, which is nice. These long-tail cargo bikes, there's just so many possibilities when you start to get the racks and bags and everything like this, whether it's hauling another adult or a kid or whatnot. Okay guys, I'm gonna pedal along in the highest level of assist because I want the motor to be as pronounced as possible. So everything you do will probably be quieter than this if you're using the other lower levels of assist. I really like that there's this almost like a kick guard, a plastic guard here. I'm used to seeing something like that usually as a slap guard on chainstays, but Xtracycle is just really, they pay a lot of attention to the details. So that's the Performance Line CX motor, high torque up to 75 Newton meters, 19-tooth chain ring with plastic guard right here, right? It's gonna keep my pants from getting tangled and hopefully keep that chain on track. 11 to 42 teeth in the rear. We can't see that, but they also have, you know, a fairly tight chain considering that this is the Dior with the Shadow Plus, and that's the clutch that kind of tightens the springs in the derailleur so that it's not going to bounce as much. A lot of times I'll see that on mountain bikes, but it makes sense here because we've got that longer chain. So let's do it. Working pretty well. You know, I was hearing a little bit of a pop when I was shifting some of those gears, but there is shift detection. It's part of the Bosch motor controller. It's listening to the pedal cadence, pedal torque, rear wheel speed. It's factoring all that together 1,000 times per second to make shifting a little bit smoother, which will help your drivetrain last. The longer wheelbase feels pretty comfortable, kind of smooths out the bumps, and there's just more like mass with this bike, so there's some momentum. And one thing I keep thinking is whenever I put my feet down and I'm walking the bike forward, is just to keep my eyes out so that I don't run over my heels, because there's a good amount of clearance here with these running boards, but it's still, you wouldn't want to get your foot to kind of get twisted below the running board. So keep that in mind. Look at that, making a full U-turn on one sidewalk length. Not bad. steel frame, you know, there is a little bit of frame flex just because it's so long if you shake the bike, but a lot of that weight is low and center right where you want it, those batteries and that mid-drive. I'm gonna shake the frame though, just to try to demonstrate. So it's pretty visible to me that it's flexing a little bit, but you're way at the back up on this kind of hoopty thing. So keep that in mind. All in all, it's pretty good. It feels very sturdy. And they said it can support 200 pounds behind the rear axle, 50 pounds in front on the rear rack, and up to 400 pounds for the entire bike, which is really good. Okay, so Chris agreed to take me on a little ride. I'm gonna hop on the back of this thing and just, you know, point the camera around, have some fun. They were saying that the bike can handle up to 400 pounds, but it's like 200 pounds on this, you know, rear part of the axle behind the axle. Oh, it's on the front of that. He's giving me clues. 200 pounds in front, 50 pounds behind. Is that what they were saying?
Yeah, really any bike, generally speaking, you want to have the weight as centered as you can over the wheels. So
okay.
They want as much of that weight as far forward as you can. That's always a good thing. A lot of times, like parents, they're like, have one larger kid and a smaller kid. Yeah. Generally speaking, you want to have the larger kid in the front and the smaller kid in the rear. It's going to handle a lot better.
First in, first out, I guess, right? This is cute. So we got the magic carpet. This is the long one. They have a shorter one. This thing, you can't see under it, but it has this plastic deck that comes with the bike. And then there's like a Yep seat. Is that one of the windows, a Yep window on this too?
Yeah, so it has a Yep window, and there's actually reinforcements under here as well, which are bolted on. Huh. So, I mean, I could just show you real quick. So you see here, so the window's open, and then it's reinforced with these. These are important to use, and they're different front and rear. So this one actually, we have it set up for demos, so just keep it really versatile. So maybe we want to pop a seat in or whatever the case may be.
That's sweet, man. You can put 2 seats on this, 2 child seats, right?
Yeah, and it's a common configuration. So that will hold 2 kids on the back. But something like this, you can actually carry 3 kids on the back, and it's pretty common to do so.
Wait, how would you do that? It's like 3 child seats?
Just button it up, and you know, just, I mean, if all 3 children are kind of facing forward, you can snuggle up pretty good there.
It's the long
tail. It really depends on the size of the child, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't fit more than, I mean, I've seen some pretty big loads on the Xtracycle. I mean, it's made with that in mind.
This is classic, man. So magic carpet, we got the hoopty, and I love it's padded right here so the kids' fingers won't get cold, and it, you know, feels nice. And then if you get close to like a railing or a wall, it'll hit the outer post and it won't shear their little fingers off. They'll be right here. That was a good invention, whoever thought of that. And then we've got the running boards down here, and then this is like the sling bag, so it can really get big, and you can actually put things that might stick out the ends, and it's just kind of minimalist. It's got a little bit of, I don't know, that screen that would keep your pants and stuff from touching that rear wheel. And then we've got a standard cargo bag right here that's a little bit more complete, right? It's not quite as open. I've included all the prices for the accessories back at the website because there just are so many. We've got that front porter rack and bag. This has been really handy. Got a surprise in here for you guys. Some of my camera gear, but then buried down here, ta-da, the charger. Check this out. So this is the Bosch 4-amp charger that I'm always praising because it only weighs 2.7 pounds. It's relatively compact, and it puts out 4 amps. So especially if you're charging 2 batteries here, and I love that you only have to plug into that one port and it charges both. You know, that's something you could carry along really easily with this front bag, and you know, not have to worry about range. You could stop off at a friend's house, get some dinner or something like that. It's just a fun bike, and you know, this nice blue color and really speaks to me. We were looking at some of the highlights, like these little red caps and stuff. I don't know, you know, Ross is the guy who started this company, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It goes way back to like this accessory thing that you could just bolt onto a normal bike and make it a long tail.
Yeah, I think he started as kind of like a master's thesis where he really wanted to develop this tool for kind of developing nations where it's like, you know, you could take a standard bike and add in the Xtracycle free radical, as it was called.
Sweet.
And now they've actually replaced the free radical with the new product, which is called the Xtracycle Leap.
Oh.
It's very similar, but just some additional updates, and that's really their thing. They're continuing to update and innovate and improve the technology, and
Sweet.
it's really cool.
I want to go for a ride.
Let's do it.
Game. He's gonna boot this thing up. The double-legged kickstand they've got, it's branded Xtracycle. It's called the Kickback 3. Very stable, and it's further back. So, you know, the pedals aren't gonna, you're not gonna get pedal lock, which is something I see on a lot of bikes, but it's got a thick, like, sturdy spring as well. And I've just kind of hop on this thing like that. Am I doing this right, Chris?
You are. And by the way, I should mention that the Hoopty currently, it's in kind of a narrower configuration. It is possible to actually make this a little bit wider.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if my hips would fit in there so well, but Court's, you know, fitting in there all right.
I went on a diet before this review. So here we go. He's gonna push it forward.
We're gonna push it forward here.
Oh boy. There we go. And then just hop it up. I weigh 135 pounds for those who are wondering, and I'm 5'9", and this is feeling pretty good. I'm actually behind the rear axle, so I'm gonna scoot forward a little bit like that.
Yeah, I actually noticed that the difference a little bit, maybe.
What, like how it feels, or?
Yeah, it's interesting.
He's taking it in. Sweet.
But in Brooklyn, I would regularly carry Marissa on the back and go on dates and stuff like that. And
oh, really?
yeah, it's pretty cool.
You had one of these in Brooklyn?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's feeling pretty good. I'm definitely loving the Magic Carpet, like the squishy pad. And I'm surprised because, you know, this bike has no suspension, but with the steel frame and with the higher volume tires, the 2.15 inch width, it's not feeling bad. I'm sensitive, like my neck and back and stuff can kind of get out of whack, you know, on bikes if you got like some choppy gravel or whatever, but this is feeling pretty great. Thanks, buddy. We survived.
Oh, yeah.
How does this feel? Can you feel me?
I can feel it.
Yeah, I mean, moving around a little bit.
That's one of the things you kind of have to train the kids a little bit, or in this case, Court, not move around too much and, you know, kind of help you balance.
And I can put my feet down just like that to sort of stabilize the bike too. That's sweet, man. I'm loving this thing. Thanks, Chris.
You got it.
Well, guys, I think that's about it. It's been fun to check out all of the improvements they've made to this bike. The last time I reviewed it once was in 2013, way back, like when the site was first starting, and then another time like in 2015. So now here we are at 2019, and you know, I'm loving how it's reinforced on this sort of step-through model. It's really approachable. They've got the high step if you want it, some of those, you know, longer seat posts, longer stem, depending on your body type. The medium was just about right. Does this feel right to you, Chris?
Yeah, that's what I would prefer, the medium size.
How tall are you and how much do you weigh?
I'm 5'9", I'm about 190.
190?
So.
Okay, so 190 plus 135. So we're below that maximum weight, and the bike handled it just fine. For all the specs and measurements, we'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. Have fun out there together and ride safe.